entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Research for the Sony Open in Hawaii, the picks, the course preview, guessing the odds for the week. We're going to be doing the entire walkthrough on fantasynational.com. As always, fantasynational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off any membership level. Great time to start using it for DraftKings lineups and your research or outright betting, because we got a fun event. I love this event because it feels like the real start of the PGA Tour to me. 144 players, there's an actual cut, and it has a bunch of goobers who I love to bet on who absolutely never win. But, you know, I like to at least think that they have a chance to win this time around. But the big thing right now is the one and done. The one and done is almost full. There are 850 spots remaining as of this recording. It's going to be a lot less by the time that Monday comes along and Jeff and I are doing the show. However, I am giving away 2 free entries on Monday's show, so there's still time to get into those. Way number 1 that you can do that, plus really help us out in this regard. Go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or both to get 2 ballots into that draw. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. Turn on auto downloads. That's really the big key here, as is leading the 5-star rating. Rating and review, 5 stars, boom, you're in that draw. It takes less than 30 seconds to do both, so I would recommend that you do both because it really does help us out, and you might win a draw into it. Again, I'll be releasing that winner with Feinberg on Monday, or if you just want to go get your spot, buy your spot right now, go do that. Screenshot your entry to me on Twitter at the PME, and it will just make you eligible for a second entry. You know, it's worth $200. You might as well do it if you're signing up anyway. Now is the time, and you don't want to miss out. People complain every single year whoa, I waited too long to sign up. Well, I'm telling you, you don't have much more time to go sign up than right now because it's almost full. All right? Before I dig too deep into the Sony Open, one thing that I wanted to do for the people that don't want to stick around for a 45-minute show is, and I probably won't ever do this again based on the amount of takes that it took me to actually get this right, but a 1-minute preview. The lazy man's version of what is going on at the Sony Open. 5 seconds on the clock. Please, let's go. Sony Open in Hawaii is played at Waialae Country Club, just a shade over 7,000 yards in length, Bermuda grass greens, par 70, very difficult to hit fairways, but the rough is pretty minimal, so it really doesn't matter if you hit the fairways or not, and it is the only course on the PGA Tour which had its own N64 game.
Waialae Golf.
9 of the past 11 winners had played at Kapalua the week before. There are 38 players from the Century in the field this week of 144. It's the first cut event of the 2024 season, and we're seeing a slew of players, maybe from the DP World Tour, graduated from the Korn Ferry Tour, or have just been grinders on the PGA Tour for a while. Plus, we get the returns of Matt McNeely, Will Zalatoris, and Gary Woodland for this event. Almost any skill set plays. Long off the tee, short off the tee. You need to be dialed in with your irons and make a ton of putts. It's going to be a birdie fest with the winning score lingering somewhere around -20. And there it is, and it's, 64-bit glory? The Waialae Country Club. This is going to be a fun preview. I really shouldn't have taken so much time. I had time on a Saturday, so I decided to edit all this crap together. Probably don't expect this sort of effort every single week, but I had some fun with this one. As mentioned before, Waialae Country Club, par 70, 7,044 yards, Bermuda grass greens. The average length of the par 3s, there are 4 of them, are 192 yards. 7 holes on this course have a bogey rate north of 16%, and 3 of them are the par 3s. Additionally, there's only one that actually there's 3 of them over 190 yards. So if you're really going to set your key factors on fantasynational.com, the 175 to 200 range is where you want to be, because the shortest one's 176 and the longest one is 204. So it's pretty good in that sense. The par 4s, 12 of them on the course, 435 yards in average. 3 of the 4 toughest holes on the course are front 9 par 4s, and 5 holes have a bogey rate north of 18%. 4 of them are within the first 6 holes on the front 9. And we take a look at the scorecard a little bit later on. You can see holes 1, 2, 4, and 6 are 4 of the 6 most difficult holes on the course. Where you're going to beat this place up is on the par 5s, hole number 9 and hole number 18. The 2 easiest holes, they have a birdie rate north of 50%. Hole number 9 has an eagle rate of almost 7%. That's more than double the bogey rate of 3%. It's pretty outrageous, to tell you the truth. Number 18 is like the hard par 5. It has an eagle rate of 3%. It doesn't matter how long you hit the ball, you're going to be able to find the green in 2. So whether you're Brian Harman or you're Ludwig Ogbert, you're going to have a chance to make some eagles at this course. So general eagle rate, I don't want to say you throw it out the window. I think it is somewhat important. Some players listen, if you hit the ball 340 yards down the middle of the fairway and you have a pitching wedge left into some of these, it's going to be easier to make eagle than doing what Hideki did when he broke my heart when he beat Henley in 2022 by going like driver 5 wood and sticking it to a foot for the nail in the coffin of every single Russell Henley ticket that was out there. Other notes about the course in general, it's the 4th longest serving host venue on the PGA Tour. The Honolulu course has been played every year since 1965, with the exception of 1970 when there was no event. That trails only Augusta National, Colonial CC, and Pebble Beach. The other big thing is the crossover course that we're looking at for here. I mentioned it in the quick video, but the big thing is Waialae, Colonial, Sedgefield, Harbortown, Sawgrass, to a lesser extent, PGA National to a lesser extent. Just there's so much water at those 2 courses. There's a lot of variance there. Mayakoba is obviously one too. We've had a lot of people win at Mayakoba and then the Sony Open within like 3 months of each other, but Mayakoba moved to live. That is no longer the Swing Season Mexico event that we are used to at this course. So let's jump over to fantasynational.com right now and check out what we got going on the scorecard. As mentioned before, you can kind of see the course layout as it pertains to the DraftKings scoring this week. You can kind of see the wraparound doesn't make that big of a difference. I would say that guys playing the front 9 do have a better chance for Daily Showdown. For the actual... There we go. Let's center that up on the frame, on the page. A little bit easier there for the scorecard. Guys starting on the front have an easier go just because 8, 9, 10, you have a birdie rate of even 7, 8, 9, 18%, 15%, 60%. But the big thing is on the swing, where if you start on number 10, you don't get this wraparound. The wraparound that you get starting on the back would be 18, which is super easy. You're probably going to make birdie or eagle on that. Then you have 2 of the 4 hardest holes on the course with 1 and 2, where the wraparound the other way, you can go 8, 9, 10. I mean, 10's not the easiest hole, but it is the 3rd most easy hole. So if you do play from number 1, you get the easiest hole and 3rd easiest hole back to back, where that's not open to you if you start on number 10. So keep that in mind just as a little extra edge for Daily Showdown purposes, if that's the game that you want to play this week. As you can see, putting and approach, it's just one of those courses where any skill set can win. The shorter hitting accuracy guys who have good approaches in a hot putting week, the Brian Stewarts of the world, are always kind of live at this event. We take a look at the past champions. I mean, there is a common link between them in courses that they play well at, some of the ones that I did mention, but that was kind of it in terms of everything else. One of the main reasons that you see a lot of that type of player do well at the Sony Open, and this is one of the strongest Sony Open fields I've ever seen from overall depth top to bottom, and a lot of that has to do with some of the DP guys who graduated the PGA Tour, some of the older guys who didn't make the century that are trying to get back in, the Horshells, the Webb Simpsons, the Stuart Sinks, like that tier of player, and then you have a bunch of really good PGA Tour grads, Corn Ferry grads, sorry, that are coming in. You see like 125 to 175, but mainly 150 to 200 is where the majority of the approaches are going to come from. Even on some of the even on this, actually the second par 5, being inside 200 yards is not all that crazy to think of. Taking a look at the historic cut line, it was a -1 a year ago, -4, -3 the year before that. This was the Cam Smith year of 2020, which is a huge outlier. He won at -11 that year. It was the highest winning score since Vijay Singh won in 2005, also at -11. Because it's a coastal course, it had a ton of rain, it had a ton of wind, and it rarely actually becomes that win influence, but every few years, or every 10 years or so, it seems, that the elements crop up, and it makes it, I mean, it doesn't make it hard, it just makes it harder that the winning score is not going to be minus 23. It'll still be double digits under par. Right around minus 20 is where you can expect it. I mentioned the driving accuracy a little bit earlier, only 53% versus 62%, but it doesn't really play a difference because look at the GUR percentage. The green regulation percentage is still higher than your average PGA Tour event, so nothing really to sweat if your guy's not great at hitting the fairway, unless he like hits an OB or something like that. The other thing too is in a birdie fest like this, if we go to like the top 5, you can see around the green becomes less and less pronounced. Just around the green at a place with smaller greens at a birdie fest, if you're missing greens in regulation, the chances of you making a ton of birdies, unless you chip in every time, is just very difficult. So that would be not a route I would want to take. Never hurts to have good good around the green game and to get lucky in that regard. It's just not that big of a deal here because you need to be 2 putting from distance, 1 putting inside 15 feet, and just not missing greens in regulation. Average proximity to the hole, just about the same as it normally is. Driving distance is way higher here than your average tour event, way higher, 3 yards higher, but guys can just grip it and rip it. There's no real penalties unless you find a fairway bunker. Like I mentioned, the rough is not penal whatsoever, so it doesn't really matter if you spray the ball around. It does not become that big of a deal. Before we get into the field, let's take a look at some of the history at this tournament. As mentioned before, Siwoo Kim is the defending champion. He is back. I mean, he's almost completed the Siwoo Slam of the courses that I kind of talked about. Siwoo has won at the Wyndham. He has won at this course. He's won at the Amex, a Pete Dye course. He came second at Harbour Town. That's still on there, but he won at the Players' Championship as well. So the past few years, we've seen Siwoo win at minus 18. Hideki won at minus 23 in 2021. Kevin Na won at 2021, a guy who's won at Colonial in the past. Also at Shriners, another place where some of these guys play really well. Obviously, he bolted for Live, so he is not here, but that was a minus 21. Cam Smith also bolted for Live, won in 2020 at minus 11 before the world shut down. And then in 2019, Matt Kuchar was the champion. He had won at Mayakoba earlier in the season, but late in 2018. I hit them both, and that was probably the last 2 times I ever hit an outright winning bet. But that was really nice to go through when we went for it. So he had that. He's won at Memorial. He's won at the Players' Championship, a good Sedgefield record as well. The year before that, Patton Kazire actually won both at Mayakoba and won at the Sony Open, minus 17 that year. Justin Thomas and Ernie Els are the only 2 players to win Kapalua and then win the next week at the Sony. He won at minus 27 with a 59 in the first round in 2017. Jimmy Walker and Fabian Gomez won the year before that, minus 20, minus 23. But let's go back to last year and really take a harder look at what happened. Hayden Buckley came in second place, Chris Kirk, Andrew Putnam, third and fourth place, Ben Taylor, David Lipsky, and there's Matt Kuchar. Nick Taylor is another one. I actually really like Nick Taylor this week. I think he was the 54-hole leader. It was either last year or the year before. He just kind of melted down coming down the stretch. But here's how Siwoo actually got it done last year. He barely gained any strokes putting. It was all approach. Did he lead the field in approach? Yeah, by over a full stroke over Ben Martin and then Troy Merritt, who ended up coming in 32nd and 64th place. The next 2 guys, 4th and 5th, in the strokes gained approach rankings, came 4th and 3rd in the tournament. That would be David Lipsky and Chris Kirk. That's how they got it done. The leaders in putting, Putnam only putted, gained 10 points. Imagine gaining 10.5 strokes in a tournament putting and coming in 4th, not winning because you were so bad everywhere else. And he gained 2.4 chipping as well. Couldn't drive, couldn't hit an approach, but whatever. Ben Ann is another one to look at this week. Obviously, I don't know the results of what's happening at Kapalua. He had a very good Saturday. I have no idea where he's going to finish up, but he has someone who's lingered on the leaderboard at Harbour Town in the past. He went 71 holes without making a bogey at the Wyndham one year and then melted down. I believe that's the year that JT Poston ended up winning. Poston, another one who's played well at Harbour Town, won at the Wyndham, played at the John Deere Classic. Another player who should be on our radars for this tournament because that's the type of guy that it is. Like when we're thinking about the field, yeah, you got Fitz and Hatton and Obear and Hideki. That's not Scheffler, Xander, Morikawa, it's not the very elite of the elite. It's the next tier down lead this field in terms of prestige. So I think it is kind of open to a lot of players, even deeper down the board. It's going to be very hard to trim down the list of 4 players or even 5 players this week, which I've tried to make a concerted effort to do this season when it comes to my betting cards. So Tee to Green, Siwoo was number 1 because of that approach and was just good everywhere else. Great with approaches, way above average around the green, slightly above average putting, slightly above average off the tee, and that was good to go. Connors, Andrew Novak, Nasty Nate Lashley, and JJ Spawn were next. Hayden Buckley, who came in second, was 6th in strokes gained tee to green. Siwoo, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, did not play in the Century the week before. He had a pair of 64s Saturday and Sunday, which earned him his win. He's won a bunch of times on the PGA Tour. If you've just bet Siwoo Kim in every tournament he's ever played on the PGA Tour, and that was the only bet that you've ever made, you'd be up a lot of money at the sports books if you only ever bet him to win events. It sucks when he doesn't do a ton week over week over week, but he just pops up and wins out of nowhere. That's the Siwoo Kim method. He was the second best in proximity from 200 plus yards. And while the putting wasn't great because he missed a bunch of shorties, he was the 4th best putter in the field from 15 to 20 feet, which does make up for a lot of things. 25 of the top 27 finishers gained strokes on the field on par 4s from 400 to 450 yards, where some of the most difficult ones end up coming in. So if we just kind of scale back the year before and we go to 2022, that's the year that Hideki ended up beating Russell Henley in the playoff. And we're going to take a look at strokes gained for that year as well. And it was a little bit different how they did it because Hideki gained a ton on the green. So did Henley. So did Power. So did Kevin Kisner. That populated the very top. But as you can see, Hideki gained a bunch off the tee and he was still, Hideki was 5th. Tee to green. Glover was 1st. Keegan was 2nd. Henley, who came in 2nd and lost in the playoff, was 3rd. So tee to green was still very important as it came down to it. Connors was inside the top 10 again. Dude comes like top 10 tee to green every year here and just kind of lingers with the top 15. So maybe it's finally a breakout season at the Sony Open for Corey Connors. Eviera was another one who actually performed pretty well tee to green, and Hayden Buckley, who ended up coming 2nd the year previous, he came 12th the year before, gained a bunch tee to green. So maybe looking back at tee to green historically at Waialae is a place there we want to go. Hideki had played the week before at the Century. He came 13th, so nothing crazy in a very small field. He had a pair of 63s over the weekend, so he had a pair of 64s from Siwoo Kim, and that ended up propelling him to the win at -18. A pair of 63s from Hideki comes in at -23, meaning that these guys weren't winning going into the weekend. So guys can come back and win at this tournament. That's not the craziest thing to think of. He did run very hot with the putter, as mentioned. You can see that he was 1.3 strokes better than anyone else in the field. Henley was 3rd. Harris English came 55th and came 2nd in putting. So we've seen that a few times now. Guys just spike putting to keep them around. That's all they can really do at the tournament. 11 players gained at least 5 strokes on approach, and 10 of them cashed a top 20 paycheck for the week. And both Kim and Matsuyama were top 35 in strokes gained off the tee and around the green the season prior to their win at Sony. And players who did that last year who are in the field, we have Justin Rose, Hideki, Sung Jae. I believe, no, Sung Jae is actually not playing this event. That's mind-boggling that Sung Jae isn't playing. Neither is Fowler. So the guys who are in the field who have done it, Justin Rose and Hideki are the only 2 who qualified for both of those this time around. So that's a look back at what happened last year, the year previous. And if we do just kind of scale out a little bit more and take a look at overall tournament history in terms of just strokes gained, you can see over the past 5 years, Connors has been the best player. He has finished inside the top 12 in all 4 of his starts with a peak of a T3 in 2029. You need someone to finish exactly 12th. Apparently, Corey Connors is the man for the job. Despite being cut twice over the course of the past 5 years, Matt Kuchar is 2nd in total strokes gained with a win and 2 T7s. Hideki has made the cut each of the past 5 years with a win. Chris Kirk has come 3rd, 27th, 2nd each of the past 3 years. He's good for 4th in overall strokes gained total. Ryan Palmer, Andrew Putnam, Russell Henley, Stuart Sink, another Heritage winner, by the way. Kevin Kisner won at Colonial, made a playoff at Wyndham, made the playoff at Sawgrass. So you can see the trend of types of players that come in to this tournament. So he's up there stepping out of the booth. I'm going to be watching a ton of Kisner over the weekend at Kapalua, but early returns from people who have watched him say he was really good. Probably doesn't want to criticize a bunch of his friends, but Jeff and I will have a review for him on Monday. Well, we give away those one-and-done ticket winners. You can see Nick Taylor up there, Siwoo, Keith Mitchell, who we are getting in the field, Hayden Buckley has played the course twice, second in T12, another big accuracy guy, not a ton of distance, so another reason to lean into that a little bit more. Worse players, Hubbard has sucked at this tournament. So is McCumber, T-Dunks, the Gim Reaper, which is weird because Gim Reaper is usually good at Pete Dye courses. I guess this one's just a bit too easy. List has sucked at this tournament over the years, as is Rogers. Kitayama, made one cut the other time. Not a ton of experience for a lot of these guys, but just take a look at ones who've kind of blown up a little bit. Carson Young, some of my favorite. Oh yeah, I forgot Blaze Akana is in the field. He sounds like an American gladiator. He is from Hawaii though, and he has a cool name, so people will actually play him this week because of that. The field overall, taking a look, is really strong. As mentioned, 38 players who played last week are going to be here, but it's not just them. We're getting a slew of others who are, it's not that we're not seeing them for the first time, but like, as I mentioned, like Horschel is playing, Zalatoris is back. He played in the Hero, didn't fare very well, but here we are. He's going to be fine. Woodland is back after getting a lesion removed from his brain. Happy to see Gary back. He used to play really well at this tournament over the years. Norin is back in the field. We got a slew of DP World Tour guys. Bobby Mack, Alex Bjork, Wacky Valimaki, Mathieu Pavon. But the big one, I think, is going to be my guy. I mean, eventually I'm going to learn how to say his name. But Rio Hisatune is where I'm going to go with this. He's been great, especially since winning the Kazoo, which was in France earlier this year. So we can kind of go to what he has been up to, and it's been fantastic for him over on the DP World Tour. Oh, sorry, that's Matty Schmidt, someone I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. There we are. Now the world's number 76 ranked player. You can see he goes from amateur to the PGA or to the DP World Tour after playing around a bunch, but he's just been on absolute fire, basically. I mean, he was the number one, I believe he was the number one ranked amateur in the world. I don't want to out myself here. Someone doesn't pay a ton of attention. Then it was Aubert after it was this guy. But realistically, like when you take a look at what he has been up to overseas, like it's been really good. Just kind of like Australian Open, 8th. The Fortinet Australian PGA, T13. DP World Tour Championship, T18. At the Nedbank, 9th. Qatar Masters, 21st. You can see the Kazoo Open to France was his big win. He played in the Zozo during the swing season, came in 6th. Like, that's pretty impressive. Some other, top 10 at the Barracuda earlier this year. The Maiden Himmerland in Denmark. Not a lot of miscuts. BMW PGA and the Irish Open, which were super strong fields on the DP World Tour. He missed, but it's been a pretty good run for him since really becoming a solidified pro. Like, working your way up to play this well on the DP World Tour, getting into this field. Like, this is an absolute opportunity for him. And as mentioned, he's the number 76th ranked player in the world. Like, he's not an absolute jabroni. He's not a scrub. And he's probably going to be pretty down in the odds. I'm guessing maybe he won't be. Maybe he's a known commodity going forward, especially with guys that bet Europe a lot. But I want to put him on the radar for a lot of people out there who may not know. Should be a good play this week. Additionally, Will Zalatoris, Gary Woodland. We're also getting Toasty. Adrien Dumont de Charret from Belgium. He is the Belgium Ludwig Aubert. I love this guy. I just love his name. He won on the DP World Tour very easily. Ben Coles is playing. Matty Schmidt is the other one. Just to take a look again at what Matty Schmidt was up to. I mean, I clicked on the wrong one that time. There we are. Take a look at what Schmidt has been up to. I've just been tracking him for a while because he was supposed to be really good, and really through the swing and in Europe. Basically, the second half of the year, he was really good. Came fourth the Alfred Dunhill in South Africa, which was just dominated by live dudes. The week before, at the Invisaset in South Africa, he was T17. He was third in Bermuda. He was second at the Spanish Masters on the DP World Tour. So he's had some pretty high up finishes. He almost won the Barbasol a few years back, melted down towards the end. But you can see he was T22 at the Wyndham, T20 at the 3M Open, T18 at the BMW International in Germany. So he was T6 at the American Express a year ago, almost a year ago to this day. Missed the cut at this tournament. I don't know if he's going to be like the guy for this tournament, the German, but he is also, once again, someone to just keep in the back of your mind as a player that could really break through this season. Like, we always kind of give up on guys, but he's a 26-year-old player. And he has come inside the top 5 in tournaments in 3 of his past 6 starts. Not, albeit not the greatest tournaments going, but still pretty good nonetheless. And he has these spike performances. He's not going to be very high up in the odds. He's not going to be very high up in the DraftKings rankings. Other than that, like, Aubert leads the field in terms of strokes gained total over the past 24 rounds. It's Aubert. I mean, so this would be the recent form coming in, but a lot of these, I mean, doesn't include Kapalua stats because that tournament isn't over yet as I'm talking about it right now. But the top 10 in terms of strokes gained total: Aubert, Cole, Cam Davis, Luke List, JT Poston. Top 5. Then you got Henley, Vince Whaley, Harmon, Tiddly Dunks, Tyler Duncan, Ryan Moore, then got EVR, Lucas Glover, Pendrith, Svensson, so a bunch of Canadians, and then Alex Noren, who had a pretty good go of, well, the swing season. I bet on him like 3 times. He didn't win anything because he's an absolute goober. But he had a third, he had a second. The Shriners, which I kind of called out. Butterfield Bermuda, too, another one where, and RSM, all ones that lean more into this skill set than something like the U.S. Open, for example, where, you know, it's bombs away at all times. If you are not a bomber, unless you gain 15 strokes putting, you legitimately have no chance of winning the tournament. So just to kind of take a look at that, Noren, how has he played at this tournament over the years? Let's take a little gander at this one. Played it in 2020. That was the difficult year that Cameron Smith won. Came T32. So not a ton of experience, but very good tee to green. One of the leaders tee to green that year. Lost almost 4 strokes putting. So maybe it is a time to go back to Noren. I don't want to commit to anything until I see what the pricing is on a lot of these players. Of note, too, the big panda, Big Norm, is the first alternate for this event, Norm Zong. So he's another one who graduated from the Korn Ferry Tour. We all loved him 3 years ago when he was like 13 years old or something like that. But he could get into this tournament. He played really well on Korn Ferry. So keep him to see if he gets into the field, because he'd probably come in at like $6,400 on DraftKings and really be no different than a lot of guys down there as well. Custom model as made by me on fantasynational.com. Once again, fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off. Save all your models. We got some brand new tools dropping very soon. In fact, I am having a meeting with Moose directly after recording this show to see how soon those tools are going to be released and how to use them and everything like that. Sony Open, this has been a solid one for me over the years. You can see that par 4, 400 to 450 yards that I called out with both Siwoo and Hideki, and a lot of the very top finishers at this tournament in that range is where we're going to be. So approach we have at 20%, par 4 scoring overall at 15. We're going to drop that down to 10 and boost up 400 to 450 to 10% as well. So now we've allocated 40% of our model there. Eagles gained 5%, opportunities gained 15%, which are birdie or eagle opportunities on the green or on the fringe, strokes gained off the tee. 5% par 5s, 5% good drives gained is a stat that I actually like to call out a little bit more than I think a lot of other people do. It doesn't necessarily need to be a big one, but when you play at a course that doesn't have a ton of made fairways, but it's still a very high greens and regulation percentage, is exactly where I want to go with. With almost half the approaches coming from the rough, that green and regulation percentage is still well above the event average for tour. So in the Sony sports a higher scrambling percentage than almost identical average proximity to the pin, greens and regulation. So good drives gained is a stat that outweighs strokes gained off the tee for me this week. Is strokes gained, good drives gained. Good drives are drives where the player either hits the fairway off the tee or the player misses the fairway but still hits the green and regulation or the fringe. So it's a driving plus greens and regulation stat is essentially what it is, which I want to see at this tournament. I called out that key par 3 range earlier. I got 10% on that. And then putting 5 to 10, 10 to 15, both at 5% each. That equals itself out to be 100%. I give it 100%! And we're good to go. Let's load that in past 24 rounds and see what we got cooking in our stew this time around at Wiley Country Club. Who's going to be the leader? Is it going to be Ludwig Aubert? Because that'd be my guess. It is not. It is the glove, Lucas Glover, because I bet you his numbers actually go back to his back-to-back wins. Does it? Oh, yeah. There we are. Wyndham and FedEx Cup. I wonder if we went past 12 rounds. We can take a look at that too if we do the roll. If you ever want to look at the rolling report, which I think is very handy to do to gauge short-term versus long-term in the key stats that you're looking at, just go to rolling report and click custom model as the easiest way to do it. But just as an overall, the top 10 in terms of power rankings this week: Glover, Svensson, Henley, Aubert, Ryan Moore. Top 5: Eric Cole, Justin Rose. Maybe this is a rosy week. JT Poston, JJ Spawn, and Cam Davis round out the top 10. Other big names after that list: Matsuyama, Gim, Matty Schmidt. There he is, number 14. Noren, number 15. Harman, Yagabombs. My guy Rio. Just call him Rio H at the moment because I want to stop sounding like an absolute moron. He comes actually in 18th. That doesn't include any of his Japanese Tour or DP World Tour starts. Just 16 rounds of the PGA Tour weighted average alone for here. So that's pretty good. Woodland, it's been a long layoff for him, so we'll see. Keegan, Connors, Kirk, Michael Kim, Brendan Todd, and Callum Tarrant. Brendan Todd, you think would be perfect for this course. Won at Mayo, having at least a very good first 2 rounds at Kapalua, plays the short Bermuda courses really well, but for whatever reason, Sony's kind of had his number. Gains a ton of strokes putting, but it's the approach play. It's the driving. He finished inside the top 20 twice, 2014 and 2012. He's a much better player now over the past 5 years than he was then, but he just can't crack the top 20 anymore. It's really bizarre that this is not a course where he just kind of goes mental and beats everyone, but it ain't. So here we are. So that's what it looks like over the course of the past 24 rounds. The best from that key par 4 range that we talked about we could probably look at this one. You know what we'll do? We'll add in, because it's very difficult to parse. Maybe this is better to take a look at past 50 rounds. So let's load in past 50 rounds and see if different names start cropping up near the top. Just because with the layoff and no Kapalua stats in this, and the Kapalua ones are going to be very difficult to parse anyway, because everyone hits the fairway. It's a very strong field. This is a very weak field, and the courses don't have any similarities really whatsoever. That if we go back to the 50 rounds and we take a look at it, Glover is still number 1, but Connors, Matsuyama, Rose, and Gim all rise up. Hatton makes an appearance. Cole remains. Henley remains. Denny comes back up. Davis and Aubert are still 10 and 11. Michael Kim rises up. And then all of a sudden you have Alex Smalley, Aaron Rye, my guy, Chris Gotterup, Yaga Bombs are all up there as well. I talked a little bit earlier about how Mark Hubbard has not been good at this course, but he comes in 18th in the key stat rankings. Spawn drops, Poston drops, Woodland, Zalatoris, and then we see Ben Ann long-term is a little bit better as well. Callum Tarrant pops up as well. I want to see where Callum Tarrant has popped up a bunch of times over the course of the past few years. I bet on him a bunch of times. Very bad POA putter, better on bent, but it just seems like he does play easy courses much better than versus the field. It's not like, he plays easy courses well and hard courses poorly. Everyone does. It's versus the field. Very good wind player too. Strangely enough, versus he loses strokes to the field in calm, ideal conditions. Moderate wind to super windy, he actually gains on the field, regardless of course. Of note, he came 7th at the Fortinet. He had the back-to-back weeks in the swing season where he gained a bunch of strokes tee to green. I bet him at Shriners, and he absolutely sucked. Well, he didn't suck. He came T23, but did not have the same sort of tee to green week that week as he did. Travelers, Pete Dye course, Rocket Mortgage. So, he's gained over 6 strokes tee to green a bunch of times in his past 10 starts or so. And that was really going the other way before that. And he played at the RS. He gagged it down the stretch at the RSM in 2022. And that's back when. So the swing season has been very good to him. I don't know if it's because he is British that the second half of the year, after it starts getting super duper hot, maybe he likes that a little bit more. I don't know, because he played well at the Rocket Mortgage. That's the middle of July, so I guess that theory is out the window. But he has been better than not, although the past 3 starts have been bad. I don't know if I really want to take a look at him. He was great off the tee here in 2022, but that's the only history that we have for him at this tournament. Just trying to find guys down the list. Maybe I should kind of stick with the ones that I know the best. But now that we have a longer sample of past 50 rounds, we'll take a look at the key par 4 range. Henley, McCarthy, Rose. Rose keeps popping up. Do I have to bet Justin Rose? That's so gross. He wasn't as bad as maybe the scorecard indicates Thursday at Kapalua, because he took a 2-stroke penalty for playing the wrong ball in the fairway that he thought was his. And he actually rebounded quite nicely. He was 4 over at one point. in that round. I think he rallied back to either be even or -1 for the day, which is not the hardest thing to do at a birdie fest, but to stay engaged enough to kind of start going at it. It shows the game isn't all the way there because you're not paying attention to your ball, but good enough that you can start reeling off birdies. He didn't just sink himself after a really poor start, which is really nice to see. So Henley, Denny, Rose, Hatton, Cam Davis, Aaron Rye, Brendan Todd, the Todd father, Corey Connors, the Glove, Steven Yeager, Bradley, Ben Annan, Aubert, Doug Gim, Hayden Buckley. There he pops up again. Curious to know what his number is going to be coming into the week with the T12 and then T2 each of the past 2 years, if he gets overinflated or people legitimately just forget about him in the market. Kirk is up there as well. Taylor Montgomery, the flea market is back. Streelman. So there's a guy, 4chan Kim is in the field. Toasty is a legit, he could be the bad boy of the PGA Tour. Move over, Zing Zhu Zhang. It's time for Alejandro Toasty. To quote Newt Salbot from Mortal Kombat in the 90s. I don't know if they do that in Mortal Kombat anymore, but they used to. Back in the day, love this guy. I hope he's an actual villain. I hope he's actually good. He just runs hot. You think Hatton runs hot? This dude runs hot. It is awesome to watch. Had a T10 in a weak field in Mexico a year ago. Played really well on the Corn Ferry Tour. Got suspended on the Corn Ferry Tour for berating people last year, which is just, I love this shit. I think we need absolute hotheads on the PGA Tour. I love when PGA Twitter and people online get, oh my God, I can't believe people smashed their clubs on the ground or yelled at someone on the course. Do people not play golf? That's how this fucking shit works. I have one guy that probably throws his club way too much, but just, I even saw the JT clip resurface when he missed the putt. He's like, you piece of shit, yelling at the ball. I love to hear it. It was just, give us an R-rated broadcast with R-rated broadcasters and mic everyone up and don't beep out their swearing because these guys are swearing all the time, but this guy's like a lunatic. So yeah, he's going to be on Team Mayo for sure. And we'll see how that goes moving forward. Key par 3 range, Cole is the best. Michael Kim, Putnam, Lashley, Rose again. Holy shit. Rose and Glover are just everywhere. Oh, that's so gross. How's the Glove doing this week? And I don't even know how he's doing this week in Kapalua. I assume not the greatest since I'm not hearing about him. Norin Matsuyama, Kitayama, Ben Ann again, Callum Tarrant again, Goddard again is popping up. Thigala is a part of that mix. Chris Kirk. So I guess it all depends realistically on the value of some of these guys, DraftKings wise or outright betting. Chris Kirk, first round leader, is probably a good look. Dude loves being good in the first round here. You can even take a look at that. The best, this is one thing that I never do on the show that maybe we should, and this will go back forever. If we just scroll down to Wiley, let's see it here. Where is Wiley? I can never spell it without looking. There it is. WAILAECC. So we'll just go to that. Last 50 rounds at Wiley. Obviously, no one has that many rounds at Wiley. Patton Kizzire has 24 rounds at Wiley, but let's just go by first round only to see who has the best first round only stats. We probably don't even need to do custom stat model. We'll just do strokes gained to make it easy on ourselves to see who does well at these tournaments. And we'll go to average, and we'll take a look at strokes gained. First round only, Montgomery, Griffin, S.H. Kim, Svensson, Eckert, way off on Chris Kirk. There's Kirk, but he does have 13. Webb for 30. So the other guys have 1 round, 3 rounds for Svensson. So maybe Svensson could be a first round leader look. Eckert, Hall have 1 round. McNeely has 2. Webb Simpson gains 2.6 strokes in the first round at this tournament in 13 first rounds. Si Woo, same number in 6 first rounds. Chris Kirk gains 2 per round in 13. So of guys that have played it a bunch of times, Kizzire, Webb, Si Woo, Chris Kirk, Poston, Rose, Connors, Ryan Palmer, Harris English, Brian Harmon. Now we're getting down the list a little bit. Henley, Stuart Sink, Ben Taylor. I had Ben Taylor. I won a bunch of money on this DraftKings wise last year. I think I came 4th in my tournament. That link should be out on Monday. But Ben Taylor and David Lipsky were the main reasons that happened. Just throwing that out there. Zach Johnson, obviously. Aaron Badley in 10 rounds has played pretty well here too. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to look at for this course. I'm going to take off the filter for first round. Take that off. And I talked about all those comp courses, so let's just look at all those. We'll take Wiley out of it. So what did I say? I said Harbortown. We'll go with Colonial first, just short, courses where accuracy guys can play, generally weaker fields. Harbour Town's different because it's been an elevated event the past, I guess, even coming out of COVID, technically it was an elevated event. So we'll go Colonial, but historically, you know what I'm saying on that front. So we'll do that. Where's Harbour Town? It starts with an H, right? Harbour Town, and it's spelled the old way with the U's. And there, I don't want Hazeltine in there. That is most definitely not a comp course for this. So Wiley, Sedgefield CC. So let's go to Sedgefield CC, and hell, we can throw Mayakoba into it still. Like, it doesn't really matter. Guys will have, it'll probably skew more towards some of the older players just because we don't have any info from it from this year. And there was no strokes gain data, so we'll just have strokes gain total from that. So where is it? Mayakoba CC. MA. Do we even have it in here anymore? Oh, because it was called El Chameleon, wasn't it? Was it called El Chameleon? Now I get everything. You take El Chameleon, CC. Want to say that's what it was. So we'll just put those 4 into the mix, and we can see past 50 rounds. Let's shrink that to past, 24 rounds with those 4 courses. And we'll sort by averages and just see if anyone's good. Ludwig Aubert in 4, where his 4 at the Wyndham, played really well. Okay. So Aubert, Henley, Davis, Connors, Webb Simpson. So those are the top 5. Matt Kuchar, Tyrrell Hatton, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Siwoo Kim, Brendan Todd are the next ones, all gaining a stroke more. Eric Cole and Austin Eckroat in 10 and 18 rounds. Those are all the players in the field currently gaining 1 stroke or more per round total of anyone in this tournament. After that, you got Rose again, Emiliano Grillo, Hadwin, Hubbard, Merritt, Putnam, Noren, Glover, once again. Carson Young does really well at this style, of course, even though he missed the cut at the Sony. Sony's not included in this. Ben Griffin, who had a good run at this tournament a year ago. Harris English, another one who's played this tournament really well over the years. Hideki is a former winner. The one I did want to point out, that if you do look at it, and take a look at the past champions at this course in general. So Siwoo won last year, a former Players Champion. Hideki won the year before that, a former Players Champion. Kevin Na, nyet, a Players Champion. Cameron Smith in 2020 won the Players Championship. Matt Kuchar won in 2019, won the Players Championship. Patton Kizzire, he didn't win. Justin Thomas in 2017 won the Players Championship. So maybe if you win, like Webb Simpson has played this tournament so well over the years, he's also won the Players Championship. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but just guys that have played well at that tournament over the years tend to play well at this one as well. But there's so much variance in that tournament that looking at their overall stats, at least in my mind, kind of throws it out. The whole key would be for the Players Championship is to look at something like Sony and Sedgefield as the crossover comp courses for that event of guys that played well at the Players Championship a year ago. Hadwin did. Hatton obviously came second. Scheffler won, but he's not going to be playing in this tournament. And Cole had it going. He and Ben Griffin had it going for like 2.5 rounds, and then it was the end of those guys. So those are the ones that play well at the comp courses. The worst guys, Jimmy giving himself the stranger. And probably shouldn't do that before a golf tournament. You don't need that hand numb. That's a terrible experience. Probably why he has negative 6.2 strokes gained total per round at all of the comp courses. Yeah, don't be giving yourself the stranger. And I also got Long Dong Paul Barjon. He probably given himself the stranger for old Long Dong here. That's why they're both a combined minus 10 strokes total per round at these comp courses. Can't do the Long Dong and the stranger. Gonna be tough to actually have an explosion of sorts on the golf course. You like that bit, do you? I did. Yeah, I can tell you that I did. You can tell by the smile on my face that I did. Let's guess some odds for the Sony. This is going to be very difficult because I think Ludwig Aubert is going to be the betting favorite. I think he comes in at 12-1. I got Hatton and Fitz next. I got Fitz at 12, Hatton at 14. Obviously, I am not factoring in the results of Kapalua because I do not know them. As you can tell by the success rate of my outright bets, I do not know the future. So I'm just not going to factor that in at all. So yes, if Tyrrell Hatton wins in Kapalua, or one of these guys wins, they're going to vault up the odds boards for the Sony Open. Hell, they might even withdraw from the Sony Open if that's the case. Anyway, you can't factor that in when we're doing this on a Saturday. So I have those 3 at the top. Then I have Brian Harmon at 16-1. I might be missing people here, just because there's so many of some of these names. So those are the big 5 that I have. They're the only 5 I have below 20-1. After that, I have Hideki at 20, Thigala at 22, Connors at 25, Denny and Siwoo both at 28 to 1. I have Cole and Griot both at 33 coming in after that. Then Poston, Todd, Cam Davis all at 40 to 1. Hadwin and Noren both at 50 to 1. And then you have a whole bunch of other guys who I honestly have no idea. Like, where do you put Glover? Does Glover come in at 30? Is he 55? Are people going to want to bet on Glover? Where does Ben An come in? He could be 35 as well. He could be 66 coming in. Like, there's such a wide range for some of these, not because it's all like it's the B squad tournament. I mean, I love these tournaments because it is the B squad, but you could make Ben An 28 to 1 in this tournament and people would bet him. You could put him at 66 and the same people would bet him and the same people wouldn't bet him. So it all really kind of hit the openers on some of these guys a little bit lower. And Rose I had at 35 to 1, but after looking at this and going through it, I think that Rose might actually be a pretty popular play this week. So he's probably going to be like 25 to 1, not 35 to 1. If he does come in at 35 to 1 at open, I'm probably going to insta-bet him, and that'll be the first thing to do. And I don't necessarily like Justin Rose all that much or in general, but the numbers are kind of pointing me towards him. And as we've talked about, be it Kuchar, be it Hideki, the years that they won, or even Kevin Na coming in, they didn't have good weeks at Kapalua and then rebounded nicely to win at the Sony Open. So what you do at Kapalua doesn't really mean all that much. Going forward for performance this week, just having those reps under your belt is the best way to do it. In the comment section, give me what you think the top 3 in odds are going to be, or what you think Justin Rose or Lucas Glover comes in. We always need the interaction. Do the same thing for Spotify. That would really help us out. Get in the draw for the one and done, fantasygolfchampionships.com to go get your spot. It's almost running out. If you're watching this on a Saturday night or Sunday morning, I'm going to be live with Cust and Garion after the late set of football games at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the Mayo Media Network YouTube channel. Plus, everything is going to be up on the pod feed after the fact. So great to have golf back in my life. I'm sure you feel the same way. And I love having all of you back in my life as well. The first week of the show for golf, huge success. So let's keep it going. Get those audio ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for the Pat Mayo experience going. And the winner will be drawn on Monday to get your name into the running for the one and done if you do those things. All right? Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo experience! Experience!